to make sure this works. Okay, what we got?
Okay.
Audio's on too.
Colonials win. That's the news that's coming out of the Smith Center now. Now, post-game, GW wins 80-68 over the George Mason Patriots in the Revolutionary rivalry. Again, I'm Sean Grant with GW TV Unstoppable, and we are joined once again in this post-game show by Parker Jensen in the Smith Center. Now, Parker, what were some of those immediate reactions that you had after the second half?
Well, after the second half, GW just played consistently. They played like they did in the first half. Same kind of thing. They were playing really, really well. They hold Mason to a sizable lead until the end of the second half, and they came back. Now, granted, it was an 80-68 victory, but they did let them come back later on in this half, so that's something that they need to watch out for, and it's something that was playing out throughout in the first half. But they played fairly consistently. They held Mason overall to a short gain, and they played really well on offense and on the defensive end as well.
Now, going into some specifics here, what were some of the things that GW did on the offensive side of the ball that led to such a successful outing? 80 points was the most that they'd scored in the last few games, at least in the last 5 games. So what did you see that they did that was effective on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, they just took control of that size lead. There's a massive size lead when you look at GW and Mason's teams, and they took control of it. Utah really went into that rim and was really getting good points. Jair was getting on the outside of the perimeter, making those 3-point shots as well. And we have big guys like Toro and Steves going to the rim. In the second half, we see a lot of people going to the rim and getting a lot of those points. So that's how they played offensively. They were doing pretty well, and they also passed the ball to Ziegler. He was getting to the rim. He was getting those big points. He was getting those big blocks. He was doing really, really well in the second half.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, did GW play man-to-man? Did they find a zone scheme that worked for them, or did they do a hybrid of those two?
Well, they mostly played man-to-man. Now, Mason was a zone defense, and GW continued to play their man-to-man, and it worked out for the most part. Granted, what I saw was that their size lead did do something, and Mason wasn't playing as effective on offense as well. There was a lot of steals on GW's behalf, getting a lot of steals, correlating to a lot of points on the other end as well. So they played pretty well defensively, but that's because Mason was kind of slowing down at the end. Their man-to-man was being effective because of that. But overall, I would like to see them put in a zone defense. Mostly their man-to-man did not work really well in the first half. In the second half, it worked all right because of their lackluster offense.
And then one of the things we talked about in the pregame show and at halftime, and you've talked a lot already about GW's size advantage, but how did GW rebound for the entire game?
The rebounding was really, really good, especially in the first half. The first half, they were getting a lot of offensive rebounds. The second half, a lot of defensive rebounds as well. Now, Mason, again, their size lead is a big portion of that, and it's because they weren't having a lot of energy at the end. Mason just really didn't show up for the second half. So they got a lot of GW got a lot of defensive rebounds in the second half and got a lot of offensive rebounds in the first half. Now, something I would like to see is correlating that offensive rebound into the second half, but overall, the rebounding was really, really good tonight.
And one last question here, Parker. What do you think GW should take from this game? You know, what's the one lesson that they should really draw from as they move into the rest of their conference schedule?
Well, I think they need to learn the fact that they can't beat these conference teams. Now, they're now 2-4 in the conference, but they do need to look out for the fact that this was at home with a pretty sizable audience. And that was really contributing to their energy, overall energy at the beginning of the game and the beginning of the second half. So they really need to take their play and just understand the fact that they're not going to have that on road games. And considering this next road stretch that's up ahead for them, they really need to play well and play hard and somehow get that energy without the fans behind them.
All right. Well, thank you, as always, Parker. Terrific reporting. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for tuning in to GW on TV Unstoppable's coverage of the men's basketball team. Again, an impressive 80-68 win for the Colonials over the George Mason Patriots. Stay tuned for the next time there's a home game, and of course, we'll have the coverage for you. Thanks, GW sports fans.